Thank you. Okay, next. How important the community service and leadership demonstrate in the application? Jessica, Jason?
All right, this is the fun part. Okay, so to begin with, so I think a lot of the people here will agree with this experience. Parents think that classes are most important, and that pretty much if you're an aimless soul in high school, like I was, then you should just be financially stable, aka a doctor or an engineer. So this is true. I feel like this is not like, yes, you'll be financially stable, but I feel like your experience in high school will be so much more enriching, not just for yourself, but for your application if you try something different. So next slide, please.
Sure.
And I would say like, this is something that I really want to show you guys. It's not terribly important, but I do think it's like pretty telling in terms of like pictures. So next slide. So we've talked a lot about AP classes, about SATs, about GPA, about all that. But if you just look at the screenshots, and this was the personal information that I was talking about earlier, just because this is like my actual like application. Some of them are weird just because I took out the really personal stuff. So then they're just copy and pasted. But as you can see, the red part is academics and testing. So that's your AP scores, your SATs, your ACTs, your GPA, all that. That's the red part. Everything extracurricular is in the green part. And if you can go to the next slide again. That is also all extracurricular stuff. So as you can see, like the ratio between your grades and GPA and like testing scores does not at all hold a candle to your actual like essay portions. And yeah, as you can see, my essays would be here, but I realized some of them was like low-key personal. So you can see like a snippet later. I did screenshot a snippet later, but I didn't want to put it on like a recorded thing. But yeah, so essentially like I think the point here is to realize like from a college office admissions officer's point of view, they just quickly glance over your scores and they're like, okay, we kind of get like what sort of student you are. And then they get to the more interesting part, which is your personality, what you're interested in, what person you're trying to be. So can we go to the next slide?
Sure.
And a lot of this is done through like the classic, what do you call it? Trebuchet or something. Extracurriculars, jobs, internships, or volunteering. And the thing with these is that you're going to hear more about, if you're in high school, you're going to hear more and more about them. People are like, oh, leadership, oh, this or this or this. Everybody has their own approach to like how to do this. And this is like the tricky part that's easy to get caught up in because you're going to hear from certain people that there's like a formula to get into certain schools. And in some ways, that might be true. I will be honest, if you are a varsity math captain at TJ, you will most likely get into Harvard or MIT. But like that's very difficult. So that's probably not going to apply for most people. If you're like more normal, like me and Jason are, then you kind of have your own approach to it. So the reason why like I think it's really valuable to have both of us here is because we have extremely different views on like how to approach it. And my brother here, he's very much on, can we go to the next slide actually?
Yeah.
So these are like some of the extracurriculars that we did in high school. As you can see, completely different. My brother, like he knew from when he was little that he wanted to do aerospace engineering. He loves space. And now at Michigan, like if you guys don't know, Michigan is like one of the biggest like astronaut factories, if you will. Like they make astronauts, they make you make rockets, and they're just cracked at aerospace engineering essentially. And he's also an ROTC. So literally when I'm in math class, he's flying airplanes through scholarships that he's not paying for. So like very different. And for me, like I didn't know what I was doing. And I think I was a more humanities leaning person at TJ. So as you can see, like I did a lot more like languages stuff. I also did some pre-med based things because I thought I was going to be pre-med. Obviously I'm not anymore. So those are some of the things that I did. And one of the things that I wanted to emphasize is like there's no formula. For me, I did these things because I thought they might be valuable to me. Did they end up actually being valuable? I don't know. But imagine if my brother had started doing ICU hospital volunteering. It will be of no value to him whatsoever. He's not going to write about his essays. He's going to be bored. It's just going to be 3 hours in the sink for him. For me, honestly, it was also very marginal in terms of how helpful it was, because like I mentioned before, your college essays really boil down to maybe 3 or 4 topics. And obviously, the more experiences you have as a human being allow you to write better essays. But I didn't write like for my Harvard application, for example, I didn't write a single essay about being class president. I didn't write a single essay about like volunteering at the hospital. I didn't write a single essay about like Spanish Honor Society. Those were really just like things I did. But once the existential crisis hit in senior year, I realized were not actually that important to me. So I would say like try everything like I did. Like I tried everything. I was interested in many things. I just wanted to try it. But like try your best to make it meaningful to you. Like you don't absolutely need to do anything, because if in the end, like no matter how good of a writer you are, you're not going to be able to make something you don't like sound like something that is particularly meaningful, if that makes sense. And that like I think that shows. I think that very much shows. And we can go to the next slide. And I just wanted to bring this out. So like full disclaimer, I just wanted to be like upfront with it, is just for me, I think one of the reasons why like I got into the school that I did is largely because like I don't think I did like a road less taken, essentially. At TJ, most people do like a very formulaic like internship summer, and then yay, you're like a STEM person now. But essentially my last summer of high school, I found like this scholarship where they send you to Morocco or like a lot of places in the world for free. They like fully fund it. And I just learned Arabic for a summer. And it was like one of the coolest experiences I could have ever asked for. And I'm so surprised that like nobody at TJ applies for it. Like I don't know a lot of people from Fairfax County that applies for it overall, but it was amazing. And I knew I loved languages from liking Spanish in high school. So I just wrote about that. And this is an example of like an anecdote that me and Tiffany were talking about in your essays. And I feel like having those experiences from life makes it so your essay is a million times more interesting than just like, I am passionate about this, ... Yeah. So yeah.
And one thing to like, I know this is going to sound really cliche, but I think it's so true through Jessica's application, I guess through mine as well. It's the idea that like, don't chase success. Like you should chase your interests. And because you're interested in them, like success will follow you. Like, I'm sure that like you definitely would have regretted it if you went down the traditional like STEM route and just did all of the clubs because everyone else was doing that. I remember you're going to be like the president of like the medical society or something, right? Remember that? Yeah, like my sister had the opportunity to just be like the president of like TJ's like medical society. And she had a huge dilemma about it because she had to choose between Spanish and the medical society. She was thinking about pre-med at the time, but so it was like really conflicted because she was like, well, if I do medical society, it would look really good on my application and it'll like, generally look better than like Spanish. But she loves Spanish so much more and it ended up working out for her. And I think that kind of really applies to me as well. I think the worst thing you can probably do, and of course, this is a bit different if you just do not know what you want to do, but I'm sure even if you don't know what you want to do, there are some things that interest you. And so I think the worst thing you can do is like kind of just go after the things that you think will look good. And then by the end of the college applications process, just feel like an kind of like an empty person because you didn't really like do anything you really wanted to. Like the entire point of the college applications process is to see how you have developed over 4 years and to see how you are as a person. And wouldn't the best way to do that is to actually develop as a person and to pursue what you love and then just show that on the essay? Like that path is so much easier than just doing what you think will look good. And I think that's my major point too. Yeah, I did like a bunch of STEM clubs that I guess a lot of other people do, but one of the things I'll speak to is that like I basically got rejected from a lot of the STEM clubs that are at TJ, and I didn't take that as like oh well, I guess I'm not doing STEM anymore or anything. I just kind of like just went after what I
made
wanted.
His own club and it's so cracked. Like yeah, Kalis is really cool. We'll talk more about it in a second. Do you want to? Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Is there a
Next one.
slide after this?
Yeah, there's more
There's one?
slides.
Okay.
Yeah,
Next
yeah,
one?
yeah. Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
Oh,
Oh,
there
wait.
we go.
Yeah, there it is. Okay.
Okay, so yeah, he can talk about this.
Okay, so I don't want to spill like my life story and or anything like that, but like I think the point of this is Kalis was essentially a club that I made.
Oh, should I like preface this? Oh, I should preface this a little bit. Again, I mentioned that Harvard application, like maybe like 3-4 essays, and the last essay is straight up write anything you want. I could have written about being class president, but again, I realized after much reflection that that was high-key not that meaningful to me. And instead, I wrote like a 700-word essay about my brother and like his journey through Kalis and the meaning that it had to me that he was like following his dreams in this way. So that's why it's called my application. Yeah.
Oh,
so
yeah.
yeah.
And on to note onto that as well, I just realized as well. So the extra essay for the Harvard application, I remember I wrote that too. It was literally like write about anything. I could have written about aerospace. I could have written about like the 3 clubs that I did. I chose to write about my parents, and that was the like literally the proudest essay I think I've ever written in my life. And when you're writing an essay and all of the words just start coming out and it just like flows and works, that's when you know you're writing about the right thing. If you're struggling to put sentences together because you're like, oh, but I can optimize the word choice, oh, I can like maybe say this another way, then you're probably writing about the wrong thing. So
yeah, like 100%. Like my counselor, like I don't know about different schools, but like our counselor, like they read over drafts of our essay like near the end of junior year. My counselor literally sent me an email saying like, I cried reading about your essay about your brother. And I was like, got you there. Like, like none of my other essays like flowed through that easily. And the single hardest essay I had to write was about neuroscience. Like I did an internship like at a lab for neuroscience. I hated that internship. It's like the number one reason why I'm not a pre-med anymore. And that so showed through during my time writing that essay because it was only 250 words. And I struggled to get every single word out.
yeah.
And like to this day, I can read it and be like, that's fake. Yeah.
Well, I guess back to the original topic with Kalis. So Kalis was basically just a club that I made because I realized that even at TJ, like at my high school, like it didn't seem like anybody like was actually passionate about aerospace. And there were people that were, but it seemed like the establishment did not care because most of the most of the clubs that were there are just kind of like, oh, you come in, you go to a competition, you win competition, you put it on your resume. And I really didn't like that attitude. And so essentially what I did was like, I was just like, okay, well, no one seems to want to like really go after and design their own rocket engine. And so I just made an organization that did. I basically pulled together a bunch of my best friends in sophomore year. And over the course of 3 years, like we actually built a rocket engine, which I'm extremely proud of. And like we raised like $20,000 and like went on the news and stuff. Like it was like probably my single most defining moment of my life. And it would not have happened if I just went with, I guess, like the meta. Like I didn't just go into like my high school and just like pick out the clubs I thought would work. And it ended up working out for me. And I would just recommend that anybody seeing this right now that they just go after what they want.
Yeah, like I want to emphasize that we're not just sharing our anecdotes just because like they're particularly useful for you, but just because like the overarching advice is do what you want, try everything. But we're now showing you like how exactly, like what does that exactly mean in our personal life stories. Like I will say like that is a cumulative of years of experience. But we can go to the next slide. But yeah, I think that's just the nail in the point. I just thought this was very interesting for me. Like Tiffany mentioned earlier, like, oh, the reality of it is they will spend maybe 3-4 seconds on your application essay or application. And this is like the actual email that I got back from my admissions officer when I got like accepted. And they were like, congrats, I liked reading your essay about Morocco and leadership. I was like, damn, like all that stuff that I wrote about in my essays, it just got boiled down for them in their eyes, like these 2 things. So I think that's just like really to nail in the point that you will be reduced very, very much so as a person during this process, but try your best to make it meaningful for you and let that really be emphasized through like anecdotes and shared experiences, like in your essays and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that should be about it from our end.
One last thing I would like to add, because of, so this is like the talk I feel like that parents and students always don't want to have, and it is kind of like an unfortunate situation because at the end of the day, not everyone's going to get into their dream school. And this is just a topic I wanted to share as somebody who's in college. I'm sure everyone else that's in college right now can like relate to. And it's the fact that, yes, would I have really wanted to go to Stanford, MIT? I would have really wanted to. And I think I gave it my best shot. And landing at Michigan, yes, like it's not as big of a name school as Harvard and MIT. But the moment you step onto campus, it literally does not matter anymore. Like the moment you get on campus, what matters is what you do with your time there and like how you develop as a person there. Like, by the way, like in like the name of the school, yeah, it's pretty nice. It's important and it's nice. But if you don't get it, it's not the end of the world. The most important thing is the program at your school. Like my sister, like I feel like Harvard is a perfect school for her because she didn't really want to, like she didn't really know what to do. And so like the best, like I guess like exploring school there is out there is probably Harvard. And I'm just really glad that that worked out for her. As for me, again, Michigan turns out astronauts. Michigan has an amazing aerospace program. That's I think like second or third in the country. Like I really like being here, and it shows that like through these 3 months I've been at college that I'm among where my people are. Like I go to class and everyone is as passionate and as loving about rocket science as I am, and I would not trade that for anything else.
He is literally flying airplanes for free while I'm in lecture classes. So just really want to nail that in.
So like there was a moment of realization where I realized that, okay, like I put a lot of my self-worth into like getting into MIT, for example, and that ended up just like not being counterproductive. I would even argue that a lot of the people at Michigan, I think Michigan's a really special school because it's in that range of like #1 public university. It's like it's in a place where like you can have people from all different backgrounds at every end of the spectrum, and it really only matters what you do with your time there. And I feel like that really applies to everyone else that's not at Princeton or Harvard that are in this call right now, that like once you're at your school, like I feel like it's the people that go to not their dream schools, but kind of like take that into heart and go like, you know what, I want to like prove myself. I want to do something with the position that I'm given. Like, I feel like those people are at the end of the day, like the people that I like personally would want to be around and the people that I think can be really successful as well. And so just wanted to have that talk with everyone, I guess. Like I know because yeah, I know this entire process is extremely stressful, and I know that from your seat as high schoolers, like everyone above you is saying that, and you're like, okay, that's nice, but I still really want to get into MIT. I understand that feeling, and everyone's gonna go through that, get rejected from MIT, and then be like, oh wait, they were all right all along. And so I think just as you're going through that process, just have your hopes high, but don't cling your personal value onto the name of your school because it's going to be counterproductive. So
great. All right. Thank you. So we can go next. Okay.
Oh, we can skip over this one. Or
okay.
Yeah.
I think we talk about a lot of those activities, in our conversation already. So I think we can just probably talking about summer intern, volunteer. Anyone can share quickly? No? So club internship, I think probably we just go next one, okay? And scholarship, Erin, could you share with us?
So I'm a big money person. I don't know about you guys. I like think we all want to save money. And I think a big consideration that made me come to Maryland was definitely because of money. And so I just want to like let everybody know that like when you're applying to schools, you should be taking money into consideration, because like at the end of the day, we're going to college to make more money as well. So, and there's a lot of opportunities you can get to apply for scholarships, and you should be like very aware of them. I think a big mistake I made was I wasn't aware of scholarships, and I didn't apply for scholarships when I should have applied for scholarships. And this is like, usually it's like on like the schools already like write it out. So when I was at Maryland, well, Maryland already gave out scholarships like based on like non-essays, but then I know for Virginia Tech, which was like a very possible candidate for my school, for like my like actual school choice, I like didn't write any of the scholarship essays because I was just too lazy. But like if it's a possible school you want to attend, then you want to look into the scholarships and like what's available for you there.
Oh, right. Tiffany, anything to share?
I don't have too much to add, to be
Okay,
honest,
okay, that's
onto
fine,
what
that's
Aaron
fine.
said. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
okay.
definitely keep finances in mind when you're applying to college. Like, I think that is super important. And I think when you're a high schooler, it's like very hard to imagine like the amount, like $20,000 a year. It's like you can barely comprehend that. I think I could barely comprehend that when I was in high school, but now that I'm working, it's like, oh, that's a lot of money. So I think just keep that in mind. Certain schools will list out what scholarships they have when you're applying, but others won't. So, like, for example, most of the schools I applied to didn't have an easy scholarship application process. But I think, like, also keep in mind, like, which of your extracurriculars have, like, scholarships involved.